Hey guys, welcome back. Recently, I made a video listing the reasons why women are less likely to become pro guitarists, let alone those with icon or cult status, at least compared to men. And for some reason in the comments, it kind of felt like a lot of people understood that as me saying that there are no female guitarists, or that literally none are able to master the instrument and get to that pro level, even though that's not really what I said or meant. So today, I'm not just going to clarify my point on that video, I'm going to explain why people's response to my video only proved my point. Let's start by looking at the demographic that actually watched my video. Yeah, I know only 900 people have seen it, but that's not going to stop me from sharing the data with you. Back in my first video, I was talking about how guitar-related content seems to be only watched by men, with a tiny female audience peppered in between. So lo and behold, when I checked the analytic for my own video, this was the result. So I mean, do I think that not a single young woman in the world is interested in whether other women play guitar or not? Probably not. This channel's very small at the moment, approaching 250 subs, so the content hasn't really been shown to that wide an audience. And I guess YouTube's analytics aren't always 100% right. Either way, it's an overall insight. Now, as for what came up in the comments section for the video, I was anticipating that maybe some people are going to point out, oh, maybe those points are a bit off, or give some insight into how it was for them to learn guitar. But instead, to my amazement, there was an onslaught of names I'd never heard of. And the one that came up most often was a band called The Warning with a guitarist called Daniela Villarreal. And I mean, my natural response was to check some of these names out. One that came up was a girl from a family band, the Mission Souls from the Philippines. And I mean, you've got to give it to her. She plays really well for her age and probably better than most people. And others were also pro musicians for sure. Well, yeah, I never tried to say they don't exist. And okay, I actually went and listened to The Warning's hits. But the thing that irked me was that people were writing Daniela's name in the comments, kind of hinting that she's a really good guitarist, yet there weren't any iconic, let alone any guitar solos in their hits. What I heard was some super digital sludgy riffs that didn't really bring anything new to the table and were really heavily compressed. So I mean, I was a little bit confused with that suggestion. And of course, there was a number of people raising my awareness about the music scene in Asia, where it just seems like there's an infinite amount of girl bands. They all play like a boss, and the only thing blocking them from the worldwide scene is the language barrier. And I mean, fair enough, that one got me, although the video was focused on the Western scene of guitar and musicians. But now, getting back to the point of the original video, which I clarified as a pinned comment, it was that female guitarists aren't only a minority of those that become pro level. Very few, if any, become guitar legends with a cult status. You see, you just don't hear anyone saying, I want to play solo X by this epic female guitarist. In the same way, you hear so many people say, I want to learn November Rain by Slash or Bohemian Rhapsody by Brian May. And the video was simply asking why. Even with the super talented girls in Asia, they're mostly into shreddy music. So yes, I know this sounds controversial, but it's difficult to find solos with a good, hummable and memorable melody. Speed and technical ability aren't the most important thing to the average listener. And if you actually look at most iconic solos, some of them might be quite technical, but the common factor between them all is that they have a great melody. Thus, in a way, even if those Asian girls were born in the West or America, I still don't think a lot of their solos would reach the guitar canon that every young musician wants to play. And I'm not trying to be unfair or biased in saying that, it's just a fact when you look at mainstream music and what tends to do well, or what tends to stay more niche. So after reading the long list of names that I either never heard of before, or have heard of at some point, after checking out what they had to offer in terms of their music, their contribution to the guitar canon of solos or novelty in general is pretty much invisible. And that only proved my point. Nobody could think of a single female guitar legend. And the thing that's really weird is that you have so many legendary female vocalists that people can name instantly. An example of that could be Kate Bush, for instance. You hear her voice for 2 seconds and you instantly know it's her. She was totally unique and still is a key figure in art, rock and pop. Again, back to guitar, this doesn't happen. In a world of 8 billion people, it's not surprising that you could even list 100 women who are super skilled at guitar. And I mean, as for legends, there can only be a limited amount in the world. Otherwise, they wouldn't be special anymore. But it's sad to see that out of that number who are influential legends, there are pretty much no females for electric guitar. The big question is, why? First of all, let's get this out of the way. Some people told me that all those rock legends were living in the 60s and that women didn't really have a chance to establish themselves because they've only picked up guitar in the recent decades. But the thing is, if you think about it, even though such status takes a lot of time to build and it's a lot harder to do that today, there was nothing stopping women in the 1960s from buying, playing and practicing electric guitar, or playing in a band and composing really cool melodic solos. I really can't think of any barriers at all. I mean, was there someone in front of guitar stores saying no women allowed?
Huh?
Considering all those decades in the golden era of rock music, it's just crazy to think that so few women even picked up the hobby. And you can look at audiences at concerts like Woodstock and see that there's plenty of women there. It's not like they weren't into that type of music. So I mean, with some of those that saw Jimi Hendrix live, you might ask yourself, why didn't none of them walk out of the festival thinking, I'm gonna buy a guitar and be just the same or better than Jimi Hendrix? Another thing is that you can't say that guitar is a male instrument in terms of being difficult to play or needing some brute force to dig into. As apart from getting calluses and having to trim longer nails, which is a standard for most instruments when you want to play, bends and guitar techniques aren't really that hard to master if you think about it, as long as you practice. And with rock music, it's way simpler in terms of complexity compared to something like classical music, which is a field where you'll probably see the most female musicians today. So it's really a strange predicament. As for post-2000s music, especially for guitarists, becoming an icon became much more difficult than before, but I wouldn't say it was impossible. For instance, you still had Joe Bonamassa and John Mayer. And in some respects, and yeah, I know he plays acoustic guitar, not electric, Ed Sheeran also has a cult level status as someone who plays guitar. And by that, I mean that the image people have of him, probably on stage, is probably with that acoustic guitar. You also had Herman Lee from Dragon Force. And in recent years at school, I also remember loads of people wanting to learn and playing loads of riffs by Måneskin. They do have a female bassist, so that's extra points for them, but still not guitar. And then again, before that, in the 90s, you had even more cult level guitarists that appeared and are still relevant today, like John Frusciante or Noel Gallagher from Oasis. You could name tens and tens of super popular guitarists from the 90s. So yeah, it has been hard for guitarists in more recent decades, and by that I mean only the last 2 decades. But it's not like anyone who wasn't born before Jimi Hendrix missed the train to become an icon level guitarist. Today, there is a problem with how the social media algorithm promotes things, and really you can see the effects of that with there being no real youth subcultures since the emos, I think. But as I said, someone like John Mayer didn't have to be a boomer for people to want to learn his guitar lines and solos, like in Gravity or Slow Dancing in a Burning Room. People learn, enjoy, and play his guitar parts because they sound great, they're mainstream hit songs, his guitar lines are melodic, and because they have cultural reach and emotional connection. By emotional connection, I mean that solo is giving the audience some sort of feelings, something that they can resonate with. Unlike a shreddy solo that's going brrrr, but more akin to ones like November Rain, where you've got long, juicy bends and clear, good melodic phrases that give us that special feeling. And please, before you turn around and say that this song by this female guitarist is just as good, just as emotional, I'm actually gonna say to that, is that, you know what, you're probably right, unless it's a super niche, neoclassical metal math rock solo. Because I was actually thinking about this the other day, and I remembered Sophie Lloyd's composition, Battlegrounds. And the thing is, a song by a female guitarist could be just as good and deserve the same or more recognition, but then it just never ends up being covered by young people. And I started searching for top 10 riffs or solo cover on YouTube of such known female guitarists, and most of the time, even if their riffs are pretty solid, okay, maybe not as good as Slash's, but still something really good for the 21st century, no one's covering them or talking about them. No one's covering them or talking about them. And I mean, to that, I can only say that if your gut instinct is telling you that it's a good song and a good melody, you're probably right. But the crux of the issue is that those songs never go mainstream. And I mean, if someone's going to do a cover of a song in the first place, they have to hear it before they do it. They have to hear it, like it, try to learn it, and then think it's so cool that they want to share it online. But yeah, it's never going to happen if it's not mainstream. Why aren't female guitarists mainstream? Why don't they get promoted to get the reach they should? So I mean, we can zoom out of guitar and look at the world of music overall. And just remember the facts. Throughout history, there have been hardly any known female composers. And I mean, guys, please don't spam random names in the comments, because that's just going to end up proving my point when they're all unknown. You did have ones like Clara Schumann and I think Fanny Mendelssohn as well. But in the same way we've been looking at female guitarists in this video, Clara Schumann is not someone you would compare to Mozart or Beethoven in terms of mass popularity, or at least popularity in terms of the longevity of their work and how many people still know it today. To cut it short, if you ask a person in the streets who is Mozart, they will know who Mozart is. But if you ask the same person who is Clara Schumann, they will not know. That's my point. We're not getting into classical music connoisseurs who know almost every composer that existed. As for instrumentalists back then, they were a whole lot less relevant than composers. I mean, I'm sure you had exceptional ones who were known, but it's kind of the opposite to what's going on today. Sabrina Carpenter, Amy Allen. In terms of female composers today, I think composers are still just a bit in the backdrop. So yeah, Amy Allen is a female composer, but she doesn't have the so-called fame and glory that the famous singers like Taylor Swift have, or the icon status that Freddie Mercury or Brian May have. So in this world where performers are celebrated more than composers, why aren't women as known as men for being exceptional instrumentalists and virtuosos? Not as an internet sensation on TikTok, or just as someone who happens to play crazily well, but I mean this in terms of things like evergreen guitar solos, or performance style that others want to copy, learn, and cover. This is really hard to answer. I guess partly it's about promotion and being mainstream, as I said before, but I mean, in the West, and I say Asia and K-pop is a bit of an exception, for a band or artist to create that Beatlemania level craze, that kind of craze that's loved by millions and is remembered for years on end, there's this common factor in the bands that do achieve that status, where they usually have a really hyped up, energetic female audience. Is that moment when you see screaming, hyped up female fans in the audience. When artists have that, it's what pushes them into true cultural phenomenon territory. Boy bands are built exactly on that. But then if a guitar or instrumentalist is female, I guess that same level of female adoration and obsession in a way just rarely happens in guitar-focused genres like metal, blues, jazz, and other similar genres. The fan base tends to stay male and the hype never explodes in the same way. Even with female stars like Taylor Swift or the Spice Girls, they are and were loved by a lot of female fans. And I'm absolutely not saying that because of that there will never be female rock stars. But when you think about how relevant and true it is in a way, it's a really important pattern to recognize when trying to understand why certain bands get propelled to a cult status. And I mean, look, I'm a 19-year-old who doesn't just play guitar, I play keys, I sing, I play bass, I record and mix, and just love everything about the process of creating music. And I'm not here to hate on or put down any aspiring musician, even if their interests are very different to mine. There are so many super skilled female players out there, but it's shocking that none are really legends. Nobody really could think of a single female name that has that real cult, you hear one note and you know it's her status. It really surprised me when I fully realized that, and really it sparked more questions than the original video tried to answer. We have legendary female vocalists left, right, and center, but what about guitar? There only seem to be about a couple hundred women who are really good at guitar and are semi-known. So the real question in the wider aspect of things isn't why are there fewer female guitarists, it's why don't any of them become an icon? And I mean, I'm genuinely asking because I want more of us to make it big. So yeah, drop your thoughts below. Tell me, why does the gap still exist in 2026? If you enjoyed this video and found it interesting, I'd appreciate it if you left a like to support me, and subscribe if you want more vlogs and covers. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.